Hello and welcome back to Rage Gaming and more Nightreign. Today I'm giving my thoughts on the legendary weapons and their passives and how they compare to one another in the classic tier list format. Even the worst legendaries can still serve a purpose, it's just that some of them are going to be instantly way more impactful than others, basically. So don't take it too seriously, it's just a fun look at all of it, and we'll be considering the different sides of them anyway, whether it's the moveset, the Ashes of War, or the unique passives that you only have in Nightreign. So it should be useful to look at either way. I'll start with C tier and work our way from the bottom, so we're starting with the Giant's Red Braid. The Giant's Red Braid is a whip with fire damage. Flame Dance means as you use the Ash of War, you get this barrage of flame pillars on top of the Ash of War itself. So you've got that familiar kind of swing combo, but on top of that you have that incantation that basically spawns all of these flame spouts. By no means is this bad. If you can get under a target and get lots of these popping off at the same time, it's very strong, but it kind of lives and dies by this Ash of War. As a weapon, it's not going to be that good. The combo is really slow, weak, and awkward. Whips generally do better in power stance, and you're not going to find many whips in a run. So you're basically going to find this and duplicate it in the city of Noclatio, or you're not going to ever get the proper moveset, which makes it one of the lower end for legendaries, at least in my opinion. Here's another one that's an obvious C tier. We have the Lion's Great Bow. As the only ranged legendary, you'd hope it'd be good, and by no means is it bad. But it's a great bow, which means it's scaling with strength. The Ash of War is Radahn's Rain, which is basically just rain of arrows, and the passive is strong attacks fire off a bundle of arrows. So basically it's just a great bow with a special version of Rain of Arrows, where we got that meteoric use of it. It is slightly better than your usual, and if you're going to face something like Augur or certain enemies, having a ranged option is good even if you are Wilder or Raider. But most of the time, this is one of the least whelming legendaries. Right, also down in this tier we have Devourer's Scepter. I'm still a hater of this weapon. Devourer's Scepter is a great hammer, so if you're playing something like Raider, you kind of want colossal weapons, two of those ideally. It's got Devourer of the World and Power of the Blasphemous, so basically you get that health back, kind of like Blasphemous Blade. Not a bad thing for Nightreign really, for general clear, but relatively useless in boss fights. Meanwhile, as it states, the Ash of War causes a big AoE and steals health, which is a little bit of a nice health restore and is stronger when there's more enemies nearby because you get more healing. But the damage it does remains absolutely minuscule, and the few times I've found it in my runs, it's been very underwhelming. Next up in C tier we have the Winged Greathorn. The Winged Greathorn is a great axe, which makes it kind of viable for the old power stance meta. Its passive is Power of the Ancestral Spirit though. Attacks lower nearby enemies' damage negation on rare occasions, so this is incredibly unreliable. If it was actually all the time, it would actually mean something. The Ash of War does do that though. Enemies affected by it will temporarily suffer from reduced damage negation, basically meaning they take more damage after they're affected by this Ash of War. So it works as a debuffer. As a legendary, the weapon is just kind of underwhelming, but the Ash of War has its use. I just wouldn't use it as a direct weapon over other better options. Last up for D tier then, we have the Eclipse Shuttle. It's unfortunately another one that just doesn't hit how it could, but it does have moments. Like we've got holy damage on the weapon and that can be useful. As a curved sword, I find them surprisingly hard to find, and so having a power stance set up with two curved swords can go a long way, and this is obviously going to help with that. It has Power of Despair as the passive, so sometimes it's like that passive you get from dormant powers, sometimes enemies just die when you're attacking them, which is obviously good if it actually works, but rare enough. The Ash of War is the main thing here though. You got the Prince of Death Flames, so you're basically buffing up the weapon and then attacking with it. This then builds up Deathblight, and then if you deal enough damage and build up that Deathblight, it instantly kills the target. But this only works against certain enemies, most of which in the game will not have this work. And certainly not any of the Night Lords or anything. So it just doesn't serve the purpose it needs to, but it certainly is a curved sword with holy damage, which is technically why I would use it more than anything. And sometimes those instant kill effects might be relevant. Moving up a tier then, we have our few weapons in B tier, starting with the Bastard Stars. I have a feeling some people are going to be upset with this ranking, but let me explain. Basically, you've got a magic flail, which is not good. Flail moveset is, as always, unreliable, awkward, not very damaging. As cute and cool as it is, it just doesn't hit very well. Its passive is Power of the Lightless Void. Attacks send forth a dark cloud of stars on rare occasions that linger briefly before exploding. And then you have the Ash of War with Nebula, which is basically the Ash of War spam tool that you'll be doing. Bit of range to it, bit of delay in the explosion, but great output and great stagger build-up. So basically, this weapon is one that lives and dies by its Ash of War, though sometimes you get extra pops from the basic attacks. As it said, it is quite rare. So dealing great damage with the Ash of War and also building up stagger with this, great, especially if the target is weak to magic, which is why it's in B tier for me. I don't like the weapon itself, but I do like the Ash of War. Next up in B tier then we have Marika's Hammer. I'm actually a big fan of this weapon, even though I've got it in B tier. It's a solid hammer with holy damage, which is going to be very relevant against certain enemies. It comes with the passive Power of the Queen. So charge attacks cause this holy shockwave, kind of like your Radagon yourself. It's awesome, looks cool, got some good range to it, obviously great holy build-up. Imagine you're dealing with Gladius and there's 3 of them, hitting all 3 of them with this is going to do work. Then you have the Ash of War on top, which has you go up into the air, you got a bit of hyper armor, do a big slam around yourself. This does great holy damage, but it also causes great stagger. The problem here is that, of course, it's still just a dinky little hammer, of which there are not many in the game. In my opinion, the best thing you'll be able to do is get 2 of these and do jump attack spam, do charge attack builds, and obviously spam the Ash of War for all your FP whenever you can. Finally, in B tier, we have the Grafted Dragon, which is another one that I actually really like, but I'm keeping in B tier. These funny little fist weapons are fun to use, and if you can get them in power stance, the potential is there, even if the range damage is terrible, because the one-handed moveset, it's not it. It's really not good. So why is this a good weapon, I think? The fact that if you get critical hits, you get extra spewed flames, but also the Ash of War bear witness. So it's this incredible burst of fire damage up into the target, then spreading. If you can get under a big target that's weak to fire and spam this over and over, it's actually devastating, and the fact that it actually reaches a little bit higher can be useful. Obviously, we recently had the hard mode version of Noster, which is weak to fire, and I was able to go under the Scorpion, blast it for big damage, and also reach up to the Moth, giving it that damage over time debuff with its unique fire weakness. So in that context, this weapon's relevance shot up. And while I've been recording this, I've just realized that I missed the Axe of Godfrey in this list, where I'm going to put it nicely into B tier. Thank God I remembered. Not one of the most popular weapons in original Elden Ring, but slightly better in Nightreign in my opinion. As a great axe, you can do good work with power stance jump attacks and running 2 great axes, especially with Raider or Wilder. We have the new passive Power of the Golden Lineage. So your charge attacks now have this special earthquake effect behind them, which obviously actually hits really well, and if you can do a charged heavy attack build with this weapon in particular, it actually works fantastic for stagger build-up, which is obviously pretty damn meta in Nightreign. Then you of course have the classic I command thee kneel. The problem with this one is it's quite a long animation and there's not a mass amount of DPS behind it, but to be fair, you know, in multiplayer Nightreign you can do some great AoE against multiple targets without aggro. I'll do this quite a bit against a target not paying attention to you. But in my opinion, the biggest thing here is the charged heavies and doing a charged heavy build. But I quite like the playstyle, so B tier feels kind of fair for it. Right, next up is the big one, which is probably going to take the longest part of this video, so I'm going to try to be a little bit quicker during this section, starting with Mohgwyn's Sacred Spear in A. I think it's one of the most iconic weapons of Elden Ring, mix of fire and bleed as a great spear. It's phenomenal. As a base weapon, you're going to do great work with this, no matter what way you run it. Then you have the Ash of War, the whole nihil spam, to do massive AoE bleed. It's one of the best ways to do that, and can be absolutely phenomenal given the chance to do it. Obviously in a group where you don't have full aggro, that's super doable. And now the weapon is buffed up to deal even more damage, which is great. Blue loss in the vicinity also increases attack power, so it's a great pick, and you could argue like towards S, sure, but the S tier picks are just kind of like guaranteed wins in the right context, so it's got to be top of A. Next in A tier, we have the classic Blasphemous Blade, one of the best weapons in Elden Ring in general, but in A tier at the high end in the case of Nightreign. As an all-rounder great sword, you got great fire damage behind its basic damage. It has that restore health upon defeating enemies passive like the game normally does, so it actually doesn't get anything new here. And then obviously Taker's Flame is that really awesome fire Ash of War with great range to it. Also healing you as it deals damage, which is great sustain in a boss fight in particular. And so it's going to be great for going through the day 1 and 2. It's going to be relevant in a boss fight, especially if it's weak to fire. It's going to be a top pick in that case. So for Wilder and going against a fire weak enemy is probably S tier, but in general I would say top of the A tier makes sense for this one. Next up in A tier we have the Dark Moon Greatsword. As a magic and frost greatsword, it does a lot of great work in the context where that's going to do well. Its new unique passive though is Power of Dark Moon. So as you attack enemies with this, you lower their magic damage negation, making its own attacks deal more damage. And say you're recluse and so on, they're gonna love you. Obviously the Asher War is the same thing, a temporary buff, giving you increased magic power, and that's when you start to get the frost. But it unlocks a new moveset for this weapon in particular if you never played the original, which is the charged heavies, which allow you to do these ranged magic swipes. You can charge them for increased effect, or just tap them for faster casts, which can be important in the right context. So giving you a reliable ranged option, fantastic magic output, frost buildup, it's absolutely insane. Also in A tier, we have the Golden Order Greatsword. It's one of the coolest looking weapons and greatswords in Elden Ring by far. It is a holy greatsword, which is going to do great in that context. The new passive is Power of the Golden Order. Charge attacks heal all ailments and dispel all temporary effects. So you have this kind of self-cleanse tool, which is really cool. If that's relevant, it's going to be a big deal, but the relevance of that's not going to be that common, to be fair. The main thing here though is the unique Asher War Established Order. You do that golden explosion, and then after that you get to do this kind of arc of light, which gives you a little bit of a ranged tool. Using this when you're under attack is a bit hard because it's a long animation, but if someone else has aggro, you can get behind the target and absolutely blast this out over and over. It does great. Then you've just got a reliable high holy damaging greatsword. Again, whether you're one-handing, two-handing, or maybe power stance jump attack spamming, it'll be a reliable good pick, but without, say, absolutely busted DP behind it like some of our S tier picks. Next up in A tier, we have the Bolt of Gransax. As a spear, it's one of the lesser common weapons, unfortunately, and that sucks because it's so good in power stance. The moveset in two-hand is going to do you well. Obviously, power stance is going to be insane for the jump attacks and the spamming and successive attacks that come with it. The passive is Power of the Great Ancient Dragon, so charge skill activation adds attack power of lightning. So by fully charging the Asher War, which is going to be this red lightning shot, you can not only increase the power of that lightning spear itself, but get that buff after. So as we hold that charge, you get that hit, you charge it up even further, and then as you can see, it comes back charged up with a little bit of extra lightning behind it, shown by this plus 41 lightning damage in the UI there. So the downside of that, if you're power stancing, is having to kind of do this, you two-hand the offhand and then do it, and then you go to the next one, do the next one, and then you get to go there, and then you have both charged up. Bit of a process, but goddamn is the DPS potential high if you're willing to go that far, and obviously it looks amazing. Asher War spam on this is great, ranged, reliable DPS, and the weapon itself does great. So A tier for me. We now have Hand of Millennia. Millennia's classic katana with good range due to the length of it. It's just a physical and bleed weapon, which is by no means a bad thing, but the new passive is really good. It is ultimately that Bloodborne rally effect like we see on some relics that's super good. So as you take a hit, you get to heal back up, and this is sort of built into the weapon. So you don't have that on a relic, you get it with this weapon. That's important because of the Asher War, the really long combo of Waterfowl Dance. In Elden Ring, doing successive build-up DPS with this can go a long way, but due to the lack of protection while you're doing it, you often get knocked out of it. In Nightreign, if someone else has aggro and you're just doing this with successive attacks behind the target, it becomes pretty deadly. If you get successive build-up, you can get great damage negation to tank through when you're doing it, and obviously lots of bleed build-up there. Then the fact that it's got that self-healing behind it for normal gameplay or just trading with that Asher War is honestly pretty awesome. Next up in A tier then, we have the Sword of Night and Flame. For this straight sword, you're not going to get a ton of use out using it directly. Power stancing straight swords is going to be a lot better than one-handing them, that's for sure, but when are you really using this? I think it's going to be something like Recluse, Duchess, or those kind of hybrid casters. Its passive in this case is granting extra attack power of magic or fire affinities based on the skill activation, which as before gives you those two options. So this was a absolute king of Elden Ring at its launch, and it got multiple nerfs since. Now it finds itself in a pretty damn solid state in Nightreign. So you hold it and then you press R1 on a controller to do the magic blast. It's like a little cosmic beam. As you can see, this gives me magic affinity on the weapon now. Then if we do a heavy attack while doing that stance, we instead do the fire whip, and then we have fire addition instead. Either way, it's pretty great for just Asher War spamming. And it's something that Josh was using on Recluse in one of our runs to just absolutely spam magic damage into the centaur over and over for great ranged quick DPS, like a really strong spell, but it was an Asher War. The pinpoint accuracy of the beam, and it doesn't last that long, means it's quite easy to hit at medium range. Then if you're going for the fire attack instead, it's great for cleaving multiple targets at once, pretty hard to miss, good stagger potential. So I might argue most for Duchess on this one. Next in A tier then, we have a weapon that I'm quite fond of for Nightreign. It's the Dragon King's Crag Blade. This is another one that I found in Noclatia quite a few times and been able to dupe to get that amazing power stance of heavy thrusting swords. But either way, it's a great weapon on its own. Solid damage, lightning output, and then you've got this new passive. Strong jump attacks transform the wielder into a thundercloud, plunges down with lightning infused blade. So it has a unique jump attack, and obviously jump attacks are incredibly good. What's pretty exciting about this then is if you can get to, like I've done with the duplicate thing, it actually works for the L1 or double attack, the power stance version of that jump attack. So this is absolutely destructive. But then you have the unique Ash of War Thundercloud form. You can tap it or charge it, increasing the distance that it goes. So a quick tap is obviously a lot quicker but short range, and then we hold it, we go a lot further by comparison. You're actually very hard to interrupt or hit during this, so it's very reliable to absolutely spam and ignore what the target's doing. Doing a mix of the power stance attack combo, jump attacks, and that Ash of War feels super strong with this weapon in particular. Next up in A tier then, we have Malekith's Black Blade. It's time to talk about Destined Death. As a colossal sword, you've just got big meaty hits behind this. Nearly 300 on the holy damage is pretty incredible alone, just using it as a sort of stick you hit enemies with. Then we have the passive power of Destined Death. So attacking will bring the enemy health pool down for a moment afterwards. The same thing exists for the Ash of War. You do this AoE of that Destined Death, dealing good damage, lowering max health, and dealing damage over time. So basically, on your basic attacks, you've kind of got like a little dot effect. And then with the Ash of War, you've got that max health reduction on that explosion of the Destined Death. It's something you can spam and just kind of ignore what the target's doing and sort of bowl through with enough poise, which feels great. And the AoE potential is strong for clearing packs of enemies too. It has great potential, but it's one that's been pretty rare for me in my Nightreign runs. Moving on in A tier, we have the Ruin's Greatsword, which is actually a colossal sword. This big meaty chunk of ore has nearly 300 magic damage on its base, and had a unique heavy attack in original Elden Ring. It now has Power of Destruction as a passive though. Charged attacks cause a wave of gravitational force, which is kind of the same concept. As you do these charged heavies then, you get to do this little explosion of gravity. But it's the same concept. So if you want to do a charged heavy attack build, this is a fantastic weapon for that purpose, and one you'd be looking for probably on Raider. But it also still has Wave of Destruction, which is kind of like Blasphemous Blade, long range, big damaging attack, this time in magic compared to the fire, and obviously great stagger build up and great AoE clear. So between the charged heavies and the Ash of War, it's great, and you could still run it as a power stance jump attack spammer even then. Time for another colossal sword. It's time for the Star Scourge Greatswords. If you didn't play original Elden Ring, this is a pair of colossal swords. So as you equip this, you actually get a second one on your back. So to do that, you just two-hand it, and boom, just like that, you're power stancing. But yeah, to use power stance with this, you actually do light attacks. And as you can see, there's a new unique effect on that, which makes this really strong. If you use heavies, you just attack with one weapon, which is not what you want to do with this weapon. So that passive I just showed, Power of the Star Scourge. The first blow of consecutive attacks creates gravitational wave that pulls enemies in. So you get to group up enemies with an effect while you're doing light attack combos. Pretty amazing overall, so you can do this R1 spam, especially for that starting attack, though I'd still strongly recommend jump attack spam as usual. Otherwise, it's a colossal sword or pair of, with magic damage behind it, which is great, and it still has Starcaller Cry, pulling enemies in with the Ash of War, and then doing this big explosive slam down on the second use to those pulled in enemies. Great damage, great stagger potential, and hard to beat when you find one because you don't have to get a second one for power stance, you just have them. So it's a pretty solid find. Next up in A tier then, we have the Sacred Relic Sword. Another classic for Rune Farm back in Elden Ring days, thanks to his Ash of War. But it's ultimately a solid greatsword with that strong holy damage behind the basic attacks. It's the Ash of War Wave of Gold that everyone knows. You've got this big fanning out Ash of War that has insane range to it. So you're able to absolutely spam this out from safe distance. You can imagine how against Gladius, this would be one of the best weapons to find because you're going to have a very easy time hitting all three Gladius wolves at the same time. The unique passive here is the Power of Greater Will, so basically your charge attacks, your heavies, get this extra effect. So we've got this ranged holy shot effect. So you've got the Ash of War, And you've got charged heavies, so you want to do a charged heavy build and just absolutely spam these two rather than using the basics of the weapon in most cases. If something's weak to holy, it's going to be a top pick. Otherwise, it's just a solid greatsword. Hard to go wrong with, really. Lastly, for A tier then, we have the Morgoth's Cursed Sword at last. So we have a curved greatsword, which is a great all-rounder weapon, with physical attack and bleed build up behind it. But it's the special properties that matter here, like Power of the Omen King, the passive. Critical hits produce a burst of flame, so you get that extra damage for critical hits. The main thing here though is the Ash of War, dealing this cursed blood build-up of physical, fire, and bleed at the same time, and it's a combo. So basically with this weapon, you're spamming this Ash of War for great DPS, bleed build-up, fire damage, stagger build-up. It's pretty quick, but the Ash of War is where it shines. So if you can spam that and get the critical hits, it's phenomenal. If you can't, it's just alright. So probably towards the low end of A tier for me, but I do like it. But that finally brings us to S tier, where we have weapons that if you find it with the right setup, I guess, is basically run winning. Let's start with the obvious ones. The Grafted Greatsword is S tier. It's actually a colossal sword, so don't get tricked by that, but either way, it comes with Power of Vengeance, which is why this is so busted. Enhances all attributes upon defeating enemies, and the effect accumulates. So if you don't fully die, or you don't DC from the run or something, this will stack for the entire run. What it does, it's going to increase all your stats, making you a killing machine. Whether you're using the weapon itself, or maybe in some of those viral clips, you just use something different completely. So you stack up the effect, and then one-shot some Night Lords with even Iron Eye's ultimate. As long as you stack this up enough, you become an unkillable god. So it's probably the strongest weapon in the game, full stop. If you get it early into a run, then you get to permanently increase those stats a lot more generally for the run. But if you do come across, say, the Wormface or Freya boss fights, well then they spawn these like weak enemies infinitely, and that stacks this passive. So you can infinitely farm them, reach unkillable god status, and win the run guaranteed in a really fun way. So if you ever find that, GG basically, and that's what S tier is. I should at least mention though, the Oath of Vengeance. It temporarily gives you those attributes. And it also gives you poise, so as you press that, you get to basically get like an enhanced endurance and go ham for a little while. So it's just a solid colossal greatsword either way, plus the Ash of War, plus the broken passive. Absolute S tier. Also absolute S tier and obvious would be the Mariah's Executioner Greatsword. And it's almost the same concept we just talked about. This is from the passive Power of House Mariah's. So basically you get attack power as you kill enemies. Not all like skills, attributes, whatever, but just attack power. So where it says that magic attack power of 210, that would go up every single kill. What's cool about this is it seems to have infinite range. So if your friend kills something at the other end of the map, you get that bonus. So you want to extend the day and night for both day and nights as soon as you have this, as long as possible. And again, same thing, if you have the infinitely spawning extra add enemies like Wormface or Freya, then you get to stack this up infinitely and one-shot everything you deal with. But obviously it has the Ash of War, which lets you do sort of force style attacks, which with successive attack build-up can be insane for chainsawing through health pools, obviously. But the main effect is the passive and stacking that up to become the highest DPS tool in the game, alongside the Grafted Greatsword. Right, for the last two S tiers, these ones are just fantastic if you find them on the right character. So let's start with the Axe of Godfrey. Basically, it's just the optimal colossal weapon that you could find for Raider, and if you can get power stance on these, obviously just busted. You can go for the charge attack build thanks to the passive of the First Lord though. It enhances your attack power, so as I do this heavy attack, you see I get that red buff, so suddenly my damage goes up. Then on top of that, you've got Regal Roar, which is a war cry, so you get attack power from that, and it changes your heavy attack as well. So I do a heavy attack charge, I get the buff. I do the Ash of War and I get the buff. So you see it's 350 plus 26 now. Then while that's going, I have a new heavy attack, which is a slam, then a hit. Then I can do it again for a hit as a follow-up after that. And then you're just doing jump attack spam, probably power stance with Colossal Swords, ideally on Raider, and it's GG. And that is pretty much meta for Raider. So yeah, top pick. Absolute last weapon then, S tier, is Carrion Regal Scepter. If you get this on any caster, ideally Recluse though. It's just one of the best sorcery staffs you're going to get, it's hard to go wrong with it. It has Renala's Full Moon as the spell, so you'll just spam this. You float up into the air, fire the moon, it dispels sorceries that it collides with, and it reduces magic damage negation as soon as it applies. So it's like a debuff. You could actually hit them with a moon and then swap to a different spell to spam out, as it'll deal more magic damage now. But then you've got the passive, the power of the full moon. Casting any spell will dispel incoming sorceries and incantations completely, and then retaliate with glint blades, which is a very rare thing that will occur, but nice as a little bonus. Either way, it's just amazing sorcery scaling with the full moon. So as you can see, I get to just blast this out from ridiculous range, by the way, and deal amazing DPS. Pretty expensive on the FP, but well worth it for your Starlight Shards. Every time I've got this on Recluse, I've just been spamming it, especially against Night Lords, for ridiculous output. So I think for Recluse and any proper spellcaster, it's an S tier pick. But there you have it. That is my full list of the legendaries of Nightreign. The reason that there is no D tier or lower is because all of them can work and can be useful. There isn't really like a bad legendary, but there's very clearly a lot of them that are going to be better than some of them. And thankfully, the majority of them are very good. Let me know what you think, and I hope this was a useful look at all the legendaries. Until next time, I've been Hollow, you've been you, and thanks for watching.
Josh, Cotton, and Hollow with the videos, dropping the humor like a hammer on your tippy toes, bringing entertainment on a daily arrangement to take our insanity and turn it into entertainment. Yes, I said entertainment twice, to reiterate that it is nice to look into your faces on a mostly daily basis when you let us in your homes to make the whole world a stage. Goodbye.